Hello, friend. Welcome to Almost Cancelled, everyone. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are, of course, going to talk about Mr. Robot Season 3, Episode 3. It's called EPS 3.2 underscore legacy.so. So, full spoilers for the episode. And this was, for everyone who was annoyed that Season 2 was very vague about a lot of things, here's all the answers to all those things. Here's everything makes sense now. Right, stop complaining.
I think this episode is season 2 Redux.
It kind of is. This was Tyrell. This was everything Tyrell was doing over the course of season 2, and it fed into a few other little things as it went along. But that was basically the gist of it, which is probably why this might not be as meaty a conversation as usual, because it was actually probably the most straightforward episode that Mr. Robot's ever had.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well. I was definitely the most straightforward episode in a while. And I was like, probably ever, because it's just one plot, one character,
one plot,
that's it.
And there's not a whole lot that begs more questions. There is, I think, some very interesting character stuff that we'll talk about, but in terms of like actual plot and things happening, it's mostly answering things, and it's mostly answering things that we more or less had kind of guessed or
Figured out. Yeah, it was just confirmation of a few things here or there.
Yeah,
Some like interesting little tidbits, but nothing major, I don't think.
which is why I think out of the 3 episodes so far, I'd probably say this one's the weakest. Not because I think it's bad, but I think just in terms of making me intrigued, it's the one that does that the least, because for the most part it is just kind of like it's crossing some T's and dotting some I's and like.
I agree. It's one I think that will pay off in the future once we properly get to see Elliot and Tyrell working together and doing things together.
Well, I think actually, I mean, I agree with that, but I think I would have went the other way. I would have said it pays off in retrospect, because season 2, watching that now,
No, yeah.
it's filled in a lot of little blanks here or there that kind of.
It does, but I mean, I'll enjoy their relationship more going forward after this.
Well, like I said, that's the thing. The character stuff, like it's not the plot; it's the character stuff. It's how it's Tyrell's feelings towards Elliot that is the most interesting part of this episode. It was what it was, getting me excited and what I was like thinking about and commenting on as in my head as I was watching it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that said, we've got our notes. We're going to dive in and we're going to go through this, and we'll talk about it. So it starts off, and it's funny actually. I was kind of laughing at the start of this episode because, so in the second last episode of season 1, we ended on this cliffhanger at the arcade. I knew the gun was in the popcorn, because I remember at the time talking about, the gun's in the popcorn. We know the gun's there.
We know it's there, and we've been waiting forever.
And then the finale skipped 3 days, and Elliot woke up in the car and was like, "Oh, what's going on? Everything's all."
And we spent all of season 2 going, "Did he shoot him with the gun?"
Yeah, what was happening all that time? And we were like, what happened on that night? And they never really got to it. And then we just started this episode. Okay, here's what happened. We're starting there.
It's like, all right, look, you want it, fine, here you go.
Here's the story of Tyrell, what happened that night, and everything that happened since then. So, so basically, they did the hack, and Mr. Robot, it was actually Elliot at first, but then when he goes and gets the gun, the camera pans round, and it's Mr. Robot holding it, and it's him that's taken over, and he's got Tyrell at gunpoint, and Tyrell kind of begs for his life, and Mr. Robot pulls the trigger.
Yes.
Mr. Robot pulls the trigger, and the gun jams. So Tyrell's all like, don't you see, Elliot? This is a sign. This is divine intervention. We are gods now. We are here to see this plan through.
Yeah, it's like you can't hurt me anymore.
Yeah, and he's so sure about it that he feels like he's not convincing him. He gets down on his knees and puts the gun right to his head and says, "Pull the trigger again, and we'll see what happens." And that's when Mr. Robot, eventually pulls away and is like, "Okay, maybe you're just the right kind of crazy that can protect me from me." That was the line.
Yeah.
This whole thing with the gunshot, though, I want to just bring up just something here. So we've been talking about alternate universes, and we've been talking about quantum computers and things like that. I feel like this is a very particular, because obviously it's every decision makes there's branching, and there's other universes where the alternate thing happened. But I can't help but feel like a gun jamming is such a rare occurrence. If you're going to get shot, chances are the bullet's going to fire, you're going to die, right?
Yeah, with a modern gun, definitely.
Yeah. So I feel like the idea that there's thousands and thousands of universes where that gun went off and Tyrell's dead, but this is the one we're in, is the one where it jammed and he's still here.
Yeah, and don't forget the other ones where it did jam, he will have taken that second shot.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Well, yeah, I was even thinking there was, like, and I mean, there probably was other ones where it jammed and then it went differently, but I just, like, and in the sense of that one moment, it
Yeah,
just,
no,
where
it's
it
it's
branched
a
there.
big pivot point, isn't it?
Yeah, where this is the one universe where he did not die at that moment. And then, yeah, obviously, when the second gunshot would Meta came, that's, like, another point after that. But
Yeah.
on that one point, I find that fascinating. Just because we're thinking that way now. But, yeah, so yeah, he talks a lot of things. Tyrell's saying, "Oh, we're gods. I felt something between us the first time we met. This uncanny bond." So basically, I'm going to spoil my interpretation of this entire episode. It is the sweet, sweet love story.
I don't think I'd say sweet. I'd say unrequited.
Oh yeah, unrequited. Yeah. The reason why I say sweet is because there's times in this episode when Tyrell gets happy and excited that he's going to see Elliot.
He's very very tender, isn't he?
That I'm like, this is adorable. He's in love with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was kind of
I
like
mean,
the how I was
he
reading it.
even says it to Mr. Robot, and he's like, something's about left unsaid. We can get it from subtext.
Yeah, I thought that was a very meta comment. Actually, he's
I
like,
did too.
oh yeah, sometimes just the subtext, pal. That's enough.
It kind of felt like Esmail going, look, we got all of this episode already. You already know all this from subtext, but fine, we'll say it.
Kinda, yeah. That was kind of it. So you got that, you got all that going, and then that's when Irving ends up showing up. We see Irving outside, and obviously it was hinted at before that he was involved in things before we've seen him. But this was like, no, all of season 2, he showed up here now. Dark Army sent him to deal with this. And he comes in with his goons, and he's like, hey, and Tyrell thinks about going for the gun, and he's like, yeah, I wouldn't do
I
that.
love the goons in the masks, where they're just, as every time something happens, there's just like guns straight up.
Yeah, you feel that's why they're goons, because that's just all they know.
Yeah, but they have some comical moments later as well, just with the masks.
Yeah. So they confirm a bunch of things. They confirm, and even though we kind of figured that Gideon was killed because of what he was doing, and he was like talking and that kind of thing, he heavily implies here, yeah, he was
Gideon
killed.
told the FBI.
Yeah, he was talking, so that's it.
Yeah.
That's him. That's done. He's dead. So what I thought was interesting about this, obviously it linked into the season 1 finale with the car, and he tells Mr. Robot to go and dispose of it and whatnot. But what I thought was interesting about this scene is eventually Mr. Robot says, "Oh, you should go," and I was thinking, does Tyrell agree with this? Like, does he? Because the whole scene is just sort of standing there scared, and it's kind of this confrontational moment. But he eventually agrees and goes willingly after Mr. Robot says that, and I was just wondering, like, does he only agree out of loyalty to Elliot? Is that why he agrees? Because he says you should go. Is that why he actually gives in? Because it's not so much that he's worried about getting into trouble himself. Because they mention, "Oh, you're going to be a wanted man. There's going to be a manhunt. There's going to be all this." But it's more of Elliot. It's just what might happen to him if he doesn't. Is that
No,
why
I agree,
he goes?
because there's the moment where Elliot kind of starts saying, he goes, no one's going anywhere. And Tyrell kind of steps back. He's like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere, almost.
Yeah, and then it changes once Mr. Robot's chin changes. Because
Yeah.
Mr. Robot, of course, is smart enough to actually kind of analyse the situation and go, okay, what are the avenues that we can actually take here? Fighting back.
Kind of his thing.
But yeah, it doesn't seem to be the option. So we get this driving scene to a farmhouse as the credits play. Very The Shining, actually. This
It's gorgeous, though, isn't it?
scene, yeah. Synth music playing, all this.
I thought it was really interesting. Have we ever seen the credits roll like that before? Because usually it just kind of pops up in, it's a big, bold statement.
I don't think so. But again, it's been...
It's been a while, but it kind of stood out to me as like it's definitely out of the ordinary, at least.
Oh yeah, normally it just appears, yeah.
Yeah.
And one occasion it was just the sign above the shop. It didn't actually come on screen. That was back in the flashback episode. Another thing, Tyrell, it confirms here, because Irving brings it up, if you need to contact your wife, you really need to contact Joanna, we can arrange that. And he's like, no, that's a bad idea. So even though we knew that most of the contact that she thought she was getting was from what's-his-face, Knowles, this at least confirmed 100%, not one of them, not one was Tyrell. Yeah. So again...
Yeah, and also it's another statement of his relationship with Elliot, in the sense that he's constantly asking for Elliot. He's constantly trying to talk to him. We see the phone call.
The very well, you're skipping ahead there, but the very next thing I noted down was just the quotation, "What about Elliot?" Because he asks within minutes, "What about Elliot? Why is he not here?" And that's a recurring theme. I'll mention as we go. A quick shot of Elliot getting arrested. Back, sort of leading into the start of season 2.
Yeah, and then comes one of maybe the only non-Tyrell bits.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because it kind of there's kind of a scene later on as well. Even though Irving's in it, it's kind of still separate from Tyrell. It's basically just these other little things, these other little, patching in little explanations,
connective tissue.
Yeah, for stuff that we saw last season. We see Zhang at his home, and we see him with his second in command, who he's pissed at because he's not bothered to learn English yet.
Which we've seen is still a problem.
Yeah, so that's interesting. And he's just talking about arranging for Elliot to be released, and they're the guy's like, is he worth it? I mean, he's crazy, like, right? And he's like, did you not hear my order? He just pulls rank, essentially, as soon as he starts to question it.
It's like, don't question this, just do it.
But he does say, okay, what was he arrested for? What did he steal? He's like, the victim's dog. And then in English, Flippy or whatever it was, or Floppy.
Yeah, Flipper.
Flipper, that was it. Yeah, Flipper. And Zhang's just amused by this. He's like, that Elliot.
Yeah, he's like, oh, okay, I like this guy's style.
Yeah, he's watching Trump on TV.
Which is amusing because I wrote down, another Trump bit at that point when you see it on the TV, because obviously we had the bit in the first
but then it becomes
episode.
a lot more relevant in like a minute.
Yep.
It actually becomes a talking point. It's not just like in the background. So it's the guy from the talk show, the host that we've seen coming up, throughout the last couple of seasons. Joanna was on the show last week. We find out that he's actually working for the Dark Army. Zhang gives him a series of instructions. He's like, oh, you have to... The exact phrase he uses is image rehabilitation for Tyrell. He wants the public to be on his side.
And one of the things I thought was great is the talk show host. He mentions, is Obama against this guy? Because, it's like, okay, if Obama's against it, people love to defend it. And obviously last season we had that edited clip of Obama, going against Tyrell.
Yeah,
so I thought that was a real nice touch.
That linked up quite well. He also says, I want F society to appear as if they've come from Iran.
Yeah.
And it's a very cynical conversation. He gets kind of racist. He's like, it's brown enough. Yeah, that'll fly. Like, people will buy that.
I also noted as well, Zhang, as well as Whiterose, is very much into time. Because, the guy gets here, he's like, right, you're going back to New York in 22 minutes. He's very specific.
Oh, sure, yeah. And I think that's maybe because he's juggling two personalities. He wants to make sure both have adequate time, I think, maybe.
I just thought it was maybe, because it's always been something we've associated with Whiterose specifically. Yeah. But I thought this was notable.
Yeah. And his final request, it's just as he's leaving, by the way, I might have a candidate I want you to support for the next president. And then he just sort of looks over at the TV, and the guy turns to us like, you can't be serious.
No, it's he in this show, Trump is literally just a laughing stock. Like,
he's a
this
buffoon.
guy calls him a buffoon.
That's the
he's
word,
like, but I want him to be a puppet.
It's like, how would you even control him? He doesn't even he's an idiot. He's like, well, if you pull the right strings, you can control anyone. I'm like, and it's just the idea that this is a foreign power dictating who's going to be president. It's not subtle, but
It's not, and I know some people have actually already kind of questioned Esmail about, really, why is this such a big thing? And he actually said that it's too big a topic to ignore, and he felt that if he didn't address it, he would be criminally negligent.
I'm okay with that reasoning.
Yeah,
I'm okay with it. Yeah. So, besides, it's 20 seconds, 30 seconds of discussion.
Yeah. No, I know.
It's whatever. So we're back to the farmhouse. We have a Mr. Williams is there to talk to Tyrell. I don't know down his name.
Me too.
I don't know. I don't know the actor's name, but he's an actor who's popped up and I knew who he was as soon as I see. His voice is very specific.
It's his voice, yeah. I recognize him as well.
I'm sure he does a lot of voice work on top of being an actor, but I've definitely seen him in stuff as well. Yeah. But he's there to basically talk to Tyrell, and I know he mentions that he brought a specific type of tea. It's a Swedish tea. Which, by the way, it's not the first time we've heard a reference to him being Swedish. Irving, when he first spoke to him, referenced Swedish fish at one point.
Yeah, and when he's about to go into the building, he's like, have you met the Swede yet?
Yeah,
into the amusement park. It's all about it.
So this guy is taking cocaine, just sort of as he goes along.
Yeah,
frequently.
every so often.
And he's basically there to confirm the loyalty of Tyrell. He's there to question. And I thought what was interesting about this is it reminded me a lot of Angela's scene towards the end of season 2, where she was taken to a location and she was questioned. And we talked about at the time how the little girl who sort of went in first kind of represented maybe her as a child. If not, and we went a bit crazy and said, oh, maybe she's really little Angela from Time Travel.
Since then, I've seen a lot of people point out, every time you see pictures of Angela as a child, like if you screenshot it, you can see them. Apparently the girl is either the same actress or very similar.
Okay. So I was thinking, does this represent his father, or does it represent his future self? Now, I wouldn't go as far to say that I think that that's actually him from the future, because he doesn't look anything like him, but certainly the idea that he's popping cocaine constantly and he's like so agitated, and the question, like, I was like, is this what he might turn into? Is this what he's worried about? Kind of thing. But I did write down all the questions, which repeat several times because he keeps lying, and then eventually he starts answering them honestly. And
it's one of these scenes where you know where it's going. It's like, okay, I know he's lying to all of these. Some of them we know definitively he's lying because we've seen proof.
Yeah.
And others, it's like, okay.
Yeah, the kettle's whistling louder and louder as it goes, and it's intercutting quicker and quicker. It's the idea of the tension rising until he eventually snaps and lets it go. Also, I noticed that the little notebook that he was using, Mr. Williams, was red, which maybe I'm just in Twin Peaks mindset, but it was stuck out in the scene because everything else was very muted, and then this red notebook was very
I think
strong.
that's fair. I mean, the base of operation, you got red wheelbarrow.
Yeah, red wheelbarrow is the name of the operation. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the amusement park was often
why
very red as well.
Tyrell sent his message on a menu from Red Wheelbarrow to Elliot in season 2. Makes sense.
It explains a lot of little bits and pieces, doesn't it?
And I'd argue we didn't really need to know all these answers, but I know some people love to get explanations for everything.
Yeah, I think I honestly I was okay not knowing most of this stuff because I've got Elliot's been not Elliot, Tyrell's been away with the Dark Army. He's been doing this stuff, and now he's back, and that was enough for me personally.
Yeah, it was fine for me, but essentially I don't mind. Like, especially this one because it doesn't spell it out. It's like, oh right, that's why he sent it on the menu. You know, you can connect it yourself. But so the questions that gets asked, and now this is one or two of them in the wrong order because I missed one or two of the first go round, and then I picked them up when he said them again. So not that it really matters because he repeated them multiple times. Did you kill Sharon Knowles? Was one. Which is, first he said no. Do you love your wife? Yes. Have you slept with anyone else? No. Now, he did later answer yes to that when he answered it truthfully, but then he asked the second question was, have you ever cheated on your wife? And he said no, which is actually true, technically, because she knew about it. Like, they were, like, kind of both,
Yeah, they were aware of all this.
Yeah, they were both sort of in, and, like, him, like, sleeping his way to the top and everything else. So that statement, as odd as it sounds, makes a lot of sense, but yeah.
I mean, there was some, I mean, the previously on actually showed him picking up the guy in the bar.
Yeah, but I mean, she may not know about that.
I assume she knew about it, but I just thought, that wasn't to do with getting to the top.
It was.
Was it? Was that one?
Yeah, he stole his phone and he put stuff in his phone.
Oh,
remember?
yeah, he did phone that one. Yeah, I'm mixing that one up with.
There was a motive. It wasn't just.
It was, yeah.
It wasn't just sexy times. It was motive.
Yeah.
As opposed to the way he looks at Elliot, which is just sexy times.
Yeah.
Sexy times. So. Yeah, will you be loyal to me was kind of the final question each time. He also, will you fire from E-Corp? And, he was answering them, almost all of them, dishonestly until he eventually answered them all honestly. But the notable one, of course, is at the end when he says, will you be loyal to me? He says, no. And that's when, the henchman, this guy in the suit from Dark Army sort of walks in and he's like, alright, okay, he said no. Time to, do whatever we're going to do because of that answer. He's got his head down and he goes, but I'll always be loyal to Elliot.
Yeah. And the guy's like, he just nods. It's like, that's good enough for us. That'll do.
Yeah, because they're all worshipping at the feet of Elliot. I mean, admittedly, Whiterose might be okay with him getting killed as soon as he's finished whatever he's doing, but
whatever it is, they're all aware Elliot's integral. So he's going to be a player for a long time. So it's fine. It's like, okay, that's good enough. That means he's on board with the whole plan.
Yeah. So we have. We have this scene. I noted down the red book, Operation Red Wheelbarrow. There we go. Cool. Right. That's it. So of course he then asks again. No one will tell me where Elliot is. Where is Elliot? And that's when we cut to him making the phone call, which we got the other side of in the prison, back near the start of season 2. And I think what's fascinating about this is this does add so much to that scene because the smile on his face as he's like, is it really you?
Yeah, because in the prison last scene, it kind of played like a taunt.
yeah,
It
it
was like,
felt.
oh, I'm still out there, sort of thing.
Yeah, at the very least, it felt mysterious and kind of where you ever got the impression that on the other side he was like nervous and like he was like so happy to hear his
Yeah,
voice.
yeah. Whereas here, it's like, no, I just want to let you know I'm still alive, almost.
Yeah, yeah,
That's how it plays. It's so different to what it was
because
before.
the call's being monitored, so he doesn't want to just say who he is. So the
Yeah,
Bonsoir Elliot's kind of like a
it's
that's
like,
why.
yeah, you'll know it's me. You know I'm all right.
Yeah. Uh, well, that's going on. We cut to Irving. And he's got this big mug, this big travel mug that says "Number One Dad" on it, which I didn't notice at the time. I was like, oh, I guess he maybe has kids. More on that later.
Yeah,
um, but you just see Tyrell like losing his shit in the background. He's like throwing the phone around. He's not happy. Not a happy man.
it's got the nice audio trick of he's listening to an audio book or whatever it is,
Mm,
and it's all muted in the background. Tyrell's just doing whatever he does, and then he kind of just takes one earphone out and it all comes into focus.
yeah. So that's what's going on, and basically he's like, oh, you're stressed, you're agitated, and obviously I wrote down he's distraught that Elliot doesn't remember or doesn't know. Like he doesn't remember the connection they had, and obviously we know that why is because he's flipping between two characters, but
Yeah, and
he
he's
doesn't
completely
understand.
out of it at this point of season 2.
Yeah. So Tyrell's upset about that, and Irving gets this idea to take him out wood chopping. So they go outside, and he's like, he tries to show him how to chop wood, and it turns out that Tyrell already knows how to chop wood. He's like, I used to do this as a child, and I
Yeah,
hated
because
it.
he's Swedish, so of course he does.
The Swedish people.
Just sweeping generalization. Sue me.
I'm pretty sure Sweden has cities where no one in their life has ever chopped wood.
Probably. I mean, it definitely does. Don't be wrong, but
I,
just go with it.
I was just a really weird racist comment, I guess.
I don't know if I'd count it as racist. Come on, that's a bit harsh. Stereotypical. That I may have just invented the stereotype.
I think you did, yeah.
I might have done.
Jesus. Anyway, so then we get a montage of him working on phase 2. They give him a laptop and some stuff to work on. He's watching his kid, his baby, through a sort of hacked webcam or whatever it is, in the house. And that keeps going for a little bit. Really sort of happy, upbeat music's playing. Then we cut to Darlene and Cisco.
I want to just
oh,
talk about the edit. There's a few times the
go on.
edit out of the woodcutting is amazing. Because
yeah.
he's in the middle of the swing, and as it comes down, instead of getting the chop sound, you get the bag zip ripping open on this one.
They did that a few times in this, actually,
Yeah.
where there'd be like a mid-swing and then it would cut to something else to sort of end the
Yeah,
motion.
I've got another one that I particularly like later on.
Yeah, you did that a few times. So it goes to Darlene and Cisco, and this is when Darlene was training Angela to do the hack, to break into the, well, not break in, but like go up to that floor in the FBI.
The heist.
The heist, yeah. And she's getting the femtocell device. She's giving it to him to go and put in the code, and he's done. And this was a really bittersweet scene because he's like, why can't we just be like regular couples, like, and argue about this and look up, trips online.
I want to go to
And
Budapest.
Budapest was the place, yeah. And she kind of makes fun of him. Was like, oh, I should never let you screw me. And he's like, he gets annoyed. He's like, oh, I'm just kidding. Like, come on. Like, we're in the middle of something big right now. But then she's like, but once this is done, yeah, we'll look at Budapest. Like, and it's kind of this thing. Oh, maybe we do have a future as a couple after like we get through all this crazy stuff. And it's so bittersweet because she's giving him this hope, and even for herself, she's like hopeful about this possible future. And I'm like, he's so dead. Oh.
Yeah, it's like we've seen how bad it ends for him.
Yeah, and and it almost brings it into perspective a little bit, like just how willing she is to work with the FBI to an extent. Beyond just keeping herself out of prison. Like,
Yeah,
it's like this is
it's
what
kind
they
of
did.
revenge for him.
Yeah, she wants to take down the Dark Army. She doesn't really want to take down Elliot, but she really wants to take down the Dark Army.
Yeah.
So he goes back to a car, and Irving's there. Irving, again, kind of like connecting him to things that were happening last season, even though we never saw him, and just kind of points out, like, yeah, stop caring about her. She's protected. You're not.
I mean,
As we saw.
yeah, it's kind of on the nose because it's like, yeah, we know how unprotected you are.
Yeah, but I think it kind of makes sense that like she's off limits for Elliot's sister and the work she's doing or whatever. But he Kelly spells it out, and it kind of puts into light again, like towards the end of last season when they were having a little date and they were getting kind of like having their heart to hearts and talking about stuff. Is that you get why he was being so reflective? He was kind of scared. as it went on. To be fair, Cisco was always pretty scared. He was never exactly a confident guy.
Yeah, no, it was,
The
it was
best
always
things.
there, least amount possible.
Back to Tyrell, he puts in the additional code in the femtocell. He's like, wait a minute, what's this malware on here? This is not part of our plan. There's extra things here that you want to do. So, Whiterose,
Because of course there is, yeah.
more motives. And then again, he's frustrated. Why is Elliot not here? If he was here, we could be doing this in like half the time. We'd be so good together. Like that was basically
Yeah, that's just, if Elliot was in the room, we'd be done by now.
yeah. Like so again, it's just like that. But then the montage resumes, and there's more working on stuff, more like putting pins in his map, more all this stuff. In this particular montage, he sees the news about Joanna. A, that she might have a boyfriend, and B, that she's put in for a divorce in his absence. So, which sets up neatly the next bit,
Which is also the next great edit from the woodcutting that I loved. Into the swing, and then it comes out into him sharpening the axe.
Yeah, he's sitting sharpening that. So he's got a beard now. He's been there that long. Hair's a bit longer. He's got a beard. He's all scruffy looking.
Yeah,
And Irving shows up with some Swedish fish because he thinks that's funny.
it's pretty funny, to be fair.
And he sees that Tyrell's in a rough place. He's like, "Oh, I guess you saw about Joanna's divorce. Don't read what don't believe what you read in the tabloids. They put Richard Gere through a hard time, and he's a damn fine actor.
It's not wrong.
I guess. I don't know. I've never really had much of an opinion on. I feel like Richard Gere's never
Yeah.
in movies that I would watch. He's always seems to be in
that is true.
other stuff. That said, the one he brings up, I think was it Primal Fear. I think he says. I've not seen it. I do believe that's about a character with like different personalities, though. So
Okay.
neat reference.
Nice and relevant.
So that's cool. But then, so he's basically trying to give him advice, and Tyrell has him back with this. He gives him some scripture, which I noted down. No one who's been emasculated by crushing or cutting. This is me reading my handwriting here, by the way. I'm not I'm just. No one who's been emasculated by crushing or cutting may enter the assembly of the Lord. Which I just noted down next to that. Back to thinking he's in the company of gods because of his work and dodging the bullet and everything else.
Okay.
Yeah. So he doesn't want to take the easy way out. Like for him, this is like no, this is all part of it. He has to go through with everything here. Like he's on his mission.
Yeah, it's. I mean that sense there, it's all about keeping your balls, literally in the scripture. Whereas for him, it's like no, the idea of having balls to go through with something. It's him kind of convincing himself that no, he has to do this.
Yeah. So then we have an extended few sequences where he actually breaks out. Not that he's really been held against his will per se, but because we learned earlier on that he's on the Dark Army owns all this land. Like they own acres and acres of land around this place, and they have fences, they have guards,
and you've got the goons around every so often. That was one of the other moments that cracked me up, where they're sat there in the masks watching the TV.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
They both kind of turn and look at him at the same time, and then turn back together. It's kind of creepy. But
He puts on his hat, he puts on his sunglasses, which he specifically asked Irving to get, and he just goes wandering through the woods, because obviously it's a big part of land, so he just wanders through the woods until he gets to somewhere out on the outskirts, and he ends up at a small store, and there's a cop car there, and the cop comes out, and the cop looks over, and he looks kind of suspicious, and honestly Tyrell, this is his fault, because he did this really awkward thing where he put his head down as if he was trying to hide himself.
And he kept looking back. So kind of, are they looking?
Had he just played it casually, like the beard and hat and glasses were more than enough to protect who he was.
I could barely tell who he was, and I know who he was.
Yeah, it was the way he was looking at him, and it was like, yeah, of course the cop tried to come. And as soon as you ran, it's like, okay, the cop knows you're running for a reason, so
yeah,
like yeah. So we get caught. Now I'm sure in the past we've theorized that a certain someone at the FBI may or may not be working for the Dark Army.
Yes.
I don't know if specifically how deep, but I vividly remember a discussion about him missing the shootout.
Yeah, I remember that.
In China, because I remember talking about it, and he brings that up here. So yes, Santiago, and I knew the whole time this cop was screwed. Like
as soon as that van pulls up, and pulls up at the front, it's like, and gunshot any second.
Yeah, and the camera's concealing who it is, so it's going to reveal who it is. But even before that, even when he was in the car and he was like, "Oh, I need to get a selfie with you," I'm like, we know he never got caught. We know he stayed hidden.
Yeah.
So this cop is doomed. This cop is dead, and sure enough, that's what happens.
Yeah, but he was doing his thumb. He was determined to get out of there,
Oh yeah, Tyrell was breaking his thumb trying to get out, and
and that was kind of horrific to watch.
it was pretty horrific. And all I could think
It,
about,
it it was funny. The actual moment of it wasn't that bad. It was the build up that was kind
yeah,
of horrible.
nah, that slow build up to the thumb getting out. It feels it's especially crushing when you know it was kind of pointless. He was getting
Yeah.
saved in a minute
But
anyway.
that was the whole thing. I was like, we know he has to get saved because he doesn't get caught. So the whole time he's doing this, I'm like, maybe he gets himself out, but I don't see it. I'm kind of just waiting for him to get saved.
Yeah, and we know he's still with Irving when we meet him again with Elliot, so it's not like
Yeah,
he was a lone wolf separate from them when we meet him again.
right, exactly.
So Santiago's pissed at Irving. Oh, I'm cleaning up your mess. There was one particular line about, oh, I had to solve a math puzzle to find this place. You didn't just tell me where it was. I thought it was amusing. Getting a little bit meta, maybe, on like the show being kind of a puzzle,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And then eventually they just told us anyway.
Yeah. And then I like that he calls Tyrell a weirdo as he walks out. He's pissed to deal with all this. He's worried about getting found out. People are suspicious, or at least they're not suspicious, but he's under a lot of pressure, and that leads to suspicion, which
Yeah,
leads
and
to
he's aware that, like, he mentions the shootout. He's aware that it looks suspicious if anyone looks too deep into it. If things keep happening, they'll
yeah,
connect the dots.
exactly. So Irving had a couple of funny lines here. Actually, he comes back after Santiago's left, and he comes back out and he's like, "Hey, don't worry about that guy. He'll." And this line was particularly strange to me. He's this kind of guy that'll slice your throat when you fart.
Yeah.
That might be the most confusing line of dialogue this show's ever had. And that is saying something.
Do you think?
He would slice your throat when you fart. What does that mean?
I took it to be like, no, he'll overreact to everything, sort of thing. He takes everything so seriously. It's like, it's yeah, oh yeah, okay, that annoys him, so he'll just deal with the problem.
Okay, alright,
That's kind of how I was taking it. Like here, the way he gets so annoyed at Tyrell. He's like, oh, I'm pissed. I've got to do this.
okay, I can actually kind of see what you mean now. I don't know, it felt like such a weird
It was
sentence
a
to me.
strange phrase. Don't get me wrong.
It
It was
was like
definitely an
super
odd way of putting it.
specific. I was like, this is so specific, why fart? Like, I don't know.
No, I agree. It was strange, but I think that was the point.
Alright, okay, so Irving sits down and he tells him a story about his sons and his wife and how they left him. And he basically, but some after he was a patient man, and because of that, he got his family back. And now his sons run up to him every night, and he assures Tyrell that you can fix this once time has passed. If you're patient, you can fix your situation. You can be with your wife and son again. And yeah, so in this scene, like, yeah, okay, he's trying to like perk up Tyrell so that Tyrell will have the strength to like get through this waiting time. On its own, it's kind of just what it is. Although I did note down after this that what Tyrell's really thinking is when he gets to see Elliot again. It's not his wife and son he's concerned about. He's like, oh no, but when do I get to see Elliot again though?
Yeah, it's around this scene he mentions Elliot again. Like,
Especially since earlier on when Joanna's brought up by Irving, he says that he needs to look strong again for her. He needs to look strong and appear strong and be strong in
yeah.
her eyes. And all I could wonder is, like, is he really talking about Elliot though?
I think definitely Elliot. Given when we will get to it in a little bit, but there's some dialogue that kind of plays back to that.
Don't you rush ahead, right? This was the pondering at the time in the scene, as does the notes dictate.
Yeah, but again, it's one of these things where he didn't want to phone Joanna. He wanted to phone Elliot. Like it's so much of this is everything is all about Elliot. So it kind of wasn't really that much speculation at this point, was it?
Figure of speech, all right. All right, next scene. It goes straight to the car lot where Bobby works. Which, by the way, I did note down actually that in the opening scene when he shows up, he actually asked one of the henchmen, "Oh, how's the car treating you?" And he's like, "Oh, good. Ah, see, I told you it would treat you like a dream." Just as a walk around, just really casual. He's selling all his henchmen cars, but basically, he's the guy who works for him failed to make a sale. And he comes up and says, "Here, take my travel mug here. It says number one dad. They see that, they'll think you're a father." And he even goes, "But you don't have kids." It's like, doesn't matter. They think you're a goofy dad who's proud to be a father, and that makes makes them comfortable in your presence. They trust you a little bit because of that. He's like, "Okay, it's all about spinning a story. That's what he just did." And sure enough, it cuts to his house, and he's got like 10 like of these cheesy mugs all kind of lined up. Like, one's like I love cats, one's this one, and they're all sort of things to make you feel like he's trustworthy. because he's not like a serious guy. And I thought that was pretty amusing.
It's genius.
Yeah, it turns out he's writing a novel.
He is.
He's writing that romance novel. Meaty damn hands was the phrase in particular that I felt the need to write down.
It's another odd choice of words.
I don't think he's got a future. I think his turn of phrase is a little bit too.
I mean, maybe if he slips in some slitting throats while they fart, it'll be a bit more interesting.
maybe. It does make me wonder though, like how much of a sociopath this guy is. Like he's so good at just like pretending to be something to try and like make someone, you know.
That's it. Because when the mug on its own is like as a sales technique, it's like okay, I get it. But it's when he's specifically talking to Tyrell, he's so convincing. Yeah.
The only truth in that entire story is that he's going home to watch Big Brother. That was the only bit of truth in the entire thing. And it makes me wonder, like, how much of what he is an act. Like, the way he looks and dresses, like, he has a very specific look. He almost looks like he's, like, from the 80s.
Yeah, he's a used car salesman. That's what he looks like.
Yeah, but even the haircut and the mustache, like,
I agree.
It's very 80s.
And then the glasses.
He's created a persona, like, how much of this is really him and how much of it is just calculated?
Probably most of it.
So then we actually get a small scene with Leon in the prison. And it's quite short and simple. You know, Irving's just there to check up. He wants to know how it's going. And Leon's very kind of pleased. Oh yeah, I got to stab a bunch of neo-Nazis. That was pretty cool.
This is another one of those that feels like, okay, this is because it's relevant.
It is relevant. It shouldn't be relevant, but it is relevant.
It is. And it's like yeah, use that. You know, I feel bad about taking life. Life's sacred, but yeah, they were neo-Nazis. It was fun.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so that was basically the scene. No, that was pretty much it. Oh yeah, he's getting out. That's fine. Which leads to Irving coming to Tyrell and telling him that Elliot's getting out. And the moment it happens, Tyrell drops his axe, big grin on his face, and it's really dreamlike music that plays. It's this very, you know, almost xylophone kind of thing comes in, like very happy and dreamy. Like yeah, this is what he's been waiting for. He's so happy about this. Also, as he's leaving the scene, as he's packed, he looks back. He has a sort of like contemplative look back to the room, like where he's spent these last like however many months.
Just on the music, you mentioned it there. It does it a lot this episode specifically, where it'll cut off really short and suddenly, usually with a door or something like that slamming. It's done. I did it a couple of times with the axe, but it's mostly with a door shutting. Yeah. And as it shuts, it cuts off. It's usually a really unnatural breaking point. It just stops dead, and it did it here. And I'm kind of going, is it the idea that, you know, his relationship it's doomed to end too early?
Maybe. I don't know if that's maybe reading into it too much.
Yeah, maybe, because it'd been happening every so often throughout the episode, but that conversation was the one where I decided to note it down.
I wouldn't read it as a predictive thing. I would read it more about sort of showing his mental state and how quickly his mood kind of like starts and stops and changes, maybe. Like,
yeah, it could be.
Because it more than anything else, it affects the flow, doesn't it? So it cuts the flow short. So it's the idea that he kind of, like, his mood will completely get better once Elliot's mentioned, but then it'll completely go away because we cut ahead, and I don't know.
I wonder if it's to do with, you know, the obsessiveness, like he's kind of getting distracted by Elliot in the sense that, so he's on track, and then Elliot pops into his head and everything just stops.
Yeah, I can totally see that. That makes complete sense. So he's taken to what I'm now calling the Phase 2 headquarters, because we were struggling to give a name to that last week, so I've named it the Phase 2 headquarters.
Let's do it.
And so they come in and they show him around. And by the way, the guy who lets them into this place in the elevator is always eating. Every single time he's let someone in this building, he's always eating something. Small touch, but whatever. So he's in, he looks around, he's like, it's perfect, he will love it. Is it just me, or does that sound like someone buying their partner a house?
Yeah, it does.
That's exactly what it sounds like. Oh, he'll love it. It's the best.
Yeah.
It's
kind of it really is, and it's one of these things where it's like it's like you say, it's always sweet, but it's so unrequited that it can only end badly, or presumably it will get very manipulative from Mr. Robot. I have to assume.
I think manipulation is where I see it going. But yeah, perfect. I couldn't believe that line. I was like, that is perfect. That's a perfect line to get that across. Irving gives him the gun back and actually points out that he's fixed it, but like the next shot would have blown his head straight off.
Yeah, it would have taken whoever's fired it. It would have taken their hand off as well.
Yeah, yeah, it would have completely messed anyone in the vicinity out of it.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was just kind of funny that like had Mr. Robot taken that second shot, this would all be over. Uh, but
Yeah.
again, the idea of fate maybe is what comes in there. Like it was destined to not happen if you want to go down that. So they take him to a hotel, which is called the Fukan Hotel, which made me laugh a lot.
I noted that down as well, just because it gave me a chuckle when I saw the name.
Because I'm thinking, what accent does that sound like you're swearing in? It's like Scouse, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right.
You fucking bastard! Like I can just hear the accent. That's not. I can't do it, but like that.
No, I could hear it.
Yeah. Also, I noticed the address was 261, which might mean absolutely nothing, but I noticed it, so I just wrote it down in case the numbering.
This is with still leftover Twin Peaks mode. We'll
I think
down every number.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I also noticed there was a really creepy photo in the lobby, like what big sort of like painting or whatever that was like as you walked past it. It was like a woman's face, but there was these like red strings like put over the top of her face. It was really creepy.
Was.
And again, if we're going with the idea with red being an important colour, like the book earlier on, like it stuck out in the scene because everything else was, pale and whites and stuff, and then there was this bright red sort of part of the painting.
I thought it was interesting that the red was obscuring the vision from either direction. Like you couldn't see. We in Twin Peaks we spoke a lot about how red was the color that was the direction. It was what you wanted to see.
Whereas here, hiding things.
Yeah, red seems to be the disguise.
Red wheelbarrow.
Yeah, and the book was hiding the truth.
That's the alias for the operation, so that no one knows what it is. But yeah, no, that tracks. That tracks. So it takes him up to the hotel suite, and I was like, okay, you're waiting here. A guy will come, tell me you're going, and like I was like, oh yeah, that's the cab ride that we got at the end of season 2. Yeah. Obviously, that's where it links up. But he's like, I need my suit, and he's like, no, you shouldn't wear your suit because people will recognise you. Because that's the thing, the beard's actually quite a good disguise. Like people are less likely to clock that it's him, unless he looks suspicious, as we discussed earlier. And he's like, no, I need my suit. He's like, okay, it's in your wardrobe, and it's like, I need to look my best for him.
Yeah, it's so telling, isn't it?
If this wasn't clear already, if you weren't getting the fact that he is in love with Elliot or Mr. Robot, we can debate which one in a bit when we finish the episode.
Yeah.
But like. This is it. Like he wants to look his best for him.
How you could not be getting it when he literally said "I love you" to him?
That's fair. That's fair. But even then, though, like that could be like a spur of the moment thing. It could be just feeling over emotional.
Okay, I get it.
The fact that it's been months now, and it's like he's like, no, I need to shave. I need to look my best. And when I say look the best, like I don't necessarily think he means it in a sort of I need to be attractive for Elliot. I don't think because it's not that relationship.
He needs to put the appearance that he expects. He needs to look like I'm supposed to.
He needs to look like Tyrell. He needs to look strong, as we said earlier. And that's he comes in the car and he's got the suit on. He's all shaven and
he's got to look like nothing's changed, like he's completely unfazed, like he's not been through anything.
Exactly. So that taxi from the S2 finale, or actually maybe the end of the second last episode, but either way, there.
I do want to point out, he said he wants to look his best. He chose a blue tie with a blue shirt. I thought that was strange. Why would you do that?
Taste. Subjective.
No. Don't colour match your shirt and tie. You want your tie to, you want to have some stand out. That's the point of wearing a tie. It's something to be decorative and add something to it. Not just blend in.
I think some blood would be really decorative on your face.
That's fair. But it might just blend in with all the ginger.
Mate, yeah. So we get to what turns out to be the final. We really gunshot because we know where this goes. Obviously, we've seen it all.
Yeah, we don't need to see it all again.
End of season 2, and he's been operated on. We see Elliot. They've got some doctors in operating him. They've made like a makeshift hospital room there, and they're working on it. It's a very disgusting shot actually. They're in his intestines, looking for the bullet.
Looks good. Good
but disgusting. The sound of the pump sucking out the excess blood as they're looking for it was just like, this is just whatever. Let's move.
It's amusing that this does not bother me at all. I don't understand. Like, looks disgusting. I'm like, oh, it's fine.
That's close up. See when it's like someone gets like in a horror movie when it's like someone gets cut in half and it all falls out. I think that's great. I love it.
But even this, I was like, oh, this looks great.
When it's like close up like this and it's medical, it's like no. But see when it feels clinical, that's when it loses all of its appeal to me.
Fair enough.
lose all of its peel. Anyway, so Angela's there, so, and we know that Tyrell called her season 2 finale. She's there, and she's the one taking control. Like, he's going to go over and talk to him, and she's like, no, I'll take care of this. I know what I'm doing.
I thought this was really interesting. 'Cause obviously, we got Irving. When he got out into his car, he was like, he phoned. He was like, right, get me Angela.
Yeah,
and I didn't realize just how involved she was already at this point.
Yeah, she seemed to go, straight there, because we saw her get that phone call at the end of season 2. And Tyrell's worried about him. He's really upset, like, because he kept saying that he didn't remember me, or am I real? Like, why would he say that? Why would we've got a special bond? Like, why would he ever say that? It was like he was a different person. And Angela's like, right, Tyrell, we have to have a chat.
Gonna have to tell him the truth here.
Yeah, have to have a chat. And we end with this fantastic little horror movie-esque shot where Elliot looks like he's waking up and he's looking down, like sort of down in the bed, like towards Tyrell. And Tyrell's looking back. It cuts back to Elliot. And it's like a slasher movie type sort of slice, and it quickly cuts to Mr. Robot instead in the bed smiling, and then it ends, credits. It's like, and this is the fascinating thing, it's like, which one's he actually in love with? Is it Mr. Robot, or is it Elliot?
That's it, because obviously he talks about that first meeting, and he had that bond, which we know at the time was Elliot. Because when he came in, it was he came into the office when Elliot was working his day job.
Why do you think that's the first meeting?
Oh, okay, that's fair. I don't know. It seemed like the first meeting to me.
No, go back and watch that again. The tone is very weird. It's like I could actually buy that he's already met Mr. Robot and he thinks he knows who Elliot is. So he's like, if you go back and watch that scene again, it's got a really weird tone to it. It's as if he's pretending it's the first meeting.
No, that's fair. I was just thinking, 'cause obviously at that point the plan isn't that underway. Tyrell's not really involved with any of it yet. I don't think there had been any reason for him to have met Mr. Robot at that point.
Wasn't it implied that they were already working in some capacity? Because remember that he comes and meets him later on in the season. They're in the limo together.
Yeah, I assumed that had happened since that meeting, though. For some reason, I don't
know. Yeah, I mean, maybe, but I kind of get the impression that he actually met Mr. Robot already before this.
Okay, that's fair.
So I think it is. I think he knows Mr. Robot first. And obviously he's unaware of the split personalities at this point. Obviously Angela's filling him in, and I think it'll be interesting to see how Tyrell reacts to that. Like, what, like, does he?
Yeah, which time was who?
Yeah, and does he? Because the funny thing is, we've seen him spend time with more with Elliot than Mr. Robot, but obviously all the times that Tyrell seems to like lust after, and the ones that he talks about fondly, and like we've got a purpose, all seems to be Mr. Robot.
Yeah, and a lot of it's been in relation to the plan, which was Mr. Robot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, no, it's fascinating. Like I say, I think from in terms of like all the little details that this kind of like tied up and like, all these loose ends that it filled in, that was all fine. I didn't really feel like I needed to know most of them though. What made this interesting for me was how much Tyrell loves Elliot, how much he cared so deeply about getting back to him, and that was what was good for me in this episode.
I think we've mentioned before how he's kind of had this bit of an obsession, but it's always been, like I say, it's always been subtext up till now. So we've always there's been this kind of soft assumption that it was kind of okay, there's a bit of an obsession going on, but I didn't think it was anything to this degree. I didn't think it was quite this strong. But obviously, I think that was the point. This was months away, and every time it was like, how's Elliot? Where's Elliot? It's all he was thinking about.
Yeah, it's great. Well performed. It's actually kind of funny to see so much of Tyrell because we got all, next to nothing of him for all of season 2. It really
does feel like, okay, you wanted Tyrell? Here's Tyrell.
Yeah, so Tyrell's back as a main character. You got an episode devoted entirely to him, and now we can keep going from here with wherever we're going to go. So
okay, I like the episode because let's say it's nice seeing these things.
Yeah, well, it is.
It's definitely I think in some sense a little bit weaker in that it's very straightforward. It's just here's some answers. It doesn't tease a lot of things like any of the others do.
It's not as tantalizing. It didn't have like the therapy scene from last week, for example, or the scene where like we find out Angela's working with Mr. Robot and not Elliot from the week before. It doesn't have those big kind of moments.
I mean, it feels different to like every episode of the show though. Every episode feels like it's, even though when it's giving us answers, it feels like it's teasing other things. Whereas this doesn't necessarily feel like it's teasing a lot. It's like, no, here's what things are. Here's a kind of catch up. Here's the state of play right now.
But again, it is teasing character things, though. It's teasing.
It is, yeah.
Tyrell. Like this is a purely character-driven episode, and some people will be thrilled they're getting all these loose ends tied up. I mean, I don't really care about most of these loose ends. I feel like we'd reach conclusions on a lot of them just kind of through talking about them.
Yeah, I kind of felt like we were past them because I don't think we learned really anything new in terms of plot.
No.
And I thought because we'd seen the start point of all this stuff, and then we've seen the end game, and the stuff in the middle almost didn't matter for most of it. It only matters to Tyrell. As a plot, it doesn't.
I think Zhang having an influence on the talk show maybe was the one completely new thing.
That's true, yeah.
But everything else was kind of just, it's just kind of what we figured anyway. But
yeah.
Hey, still, very enjoyable episode. Directing was on point as always. Acting was on point.
Yeah.
Tyrell was not knocking it apart. I should actually use the actor's name, not Tyrell, because that makes more sense. And where the hell is his name? You'd think he'd be in the top chunk of people.
Yeah, you would think that, but that would be too easy.
You wouldn't you? Instead, he's underneath Hamburger Man. Martin Wallstrom, or Wallstrom, is his name. Yeah, he was doing great in this episode. This was his chance to shine because he's been missing for so long, and obviously he was in the first episode of the season and he was in the season finale last year, but this was okay, you've missed so much work because we wrote you out of most of the season. Here's a episode devoted entirely to you. Here's a
season's worth of work that you've got to pull off.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. It was like, we were paying you all of last season because you were a series regular, so we were paying you and you didn't do really anything. So this year we're making you're doing double time, mate. Yeah.
So no, it was very, very enjoyable in those senses. So I don't want to sound like I'm down on it because I'm really not. I had a blast, and when I watched it a second time for my notes, I think I enjoyed it even more than I did the first time.
That's it. I still think it was a great episode. I just think it's one of those where it doesn't leave me afterwards going, "Oh, what next?"
Yeah. So I'm excited to get back to the current plot next week and see where we're going. But it was a bit of a diversion, but a nice character diversion all the same. So. There you go. Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mail_fuss for channel updates. Oh, one minor correction. We had actually seen last week. We were talking about how excited we were that we were seeing Elliot or Rami Malek portray Mr. Robot as him.
Yeah.
We did technically see that before.
Yeah.
Back at the start of the season 2 finale, we did get a scene.
Yeah. Okay.
Remember, there was a lot of sky above them, which admittedly doesn't narrow it down for Mr. Robot, but this was an extreme amount of sky above them.
No, I recall.
Yeah. Still, though...
we definitely haven't got as much of it as this.
Oh, absolutely. Because even here at the end, before it cuts to Mr. Robot, it played with that moment of...
I do love that moment, because Elliot's out of it. He's like, kind of like, what's going on? And Mr. Robot, he just seems so alert. He's looking at it going, I can use this. Just in that one moment. So there we go. So like, subscribe, all that stuff. Let us know what you thought. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. You can do that over there. Get some bonuses and stuff. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching TV. We'll see you next time. Have you got any vanilla?